Beware the classic traps. The first is chasing the highest yield on the page. Extremely high yields are often the result of a falling stock price rather than a generous business. The number is signaling stress. A disciplined investor asks why the yield is high and what must be true for it to be sustained. The second trap is concentrating in sectors that pay well during certain interest rate environments and then struggle when those environments change. The third trap is ignoring the balance sheet. Dividends compete with debt payments. When financing costs rise or cash dries up, something gives. The fourth trap is confusing distribution frequency with quality. Monthly payers feel nice, quarterly payers are the global norm. Frequency has little to do with safety. The fifth trap is forgetting that the dividend is set by the board. It is a policy choice, not a natural law. Policies change when reality does. Yield on cost is a phrase that wins hearts and muddles thinking. It measures today's annual dividend against your original purchase price, which can be satisfying if you bought years ago and the company has raised its payout. It is a useful way to feel the effect of growth, but it is not a useful way to make new decisions. Future choices should be made on forward yield and forward growth prospects, not on the nostalgia of what you paid long ago. Treat yield on cost like a smile, not a steering wheel. If you plan to live on dividends later, start thinking in terms of income design rather than target numbers copied from someone else's portfolio. Imagine the bills you want the portfolio to cover: housing, food, insurance, small joys, and decide which parts you prefer to pay with contractual income and which parts can float with market returns. A mix of broad equity funds for growth and rising income, bond ladders for predictability, and dividend-focused funds or companies you trust can produce a cash flow that covers most months. The trick is sizing and patience. Building the income engine takes years. You don't need to arrive tomorrow. You need to keep contributing and avoid mistakes that force you to sell at bad prices. Let's make this practical with a 12-month beginner plan told as a story rather than a checklist. In your first month, you open a brokerage account if you don't have one and connect it to the checking account where your paycheck lands. You name a small automatic transfer that leaves on payday and goes into a broad equity index fund and a dividend-focused fund. You pick distribution handling based on your stage. Reinvest if you're growing, pay out if you need the cash for an explicit purpose. You promise yourself you'll ignore daily price moves and revisit your setup on your birthday and halfway to your next birthday. Through the first quarter, you let the automation do the lifting while you read. You learn what ex-dividend dates are and why the price tick matters. You watch the first small distribution appear and practice doing nothing dramatic. You notice how funds report their distributions, and you start to understand that some months pay more because more companies pay them. You also notice that dividends are uneven and that building a smooth monthly paycheck from dividends alone is less realistic than building a steady annual income that you manage with a cash giver. In the second quarter, you get curious about one dividend growth company you use every week. You read 2 years of shareholder letters, you write a paragraph in plain language about why the business earns above average returns on capital and how it treats owners. You buy a small position and set your expectations appropriately. You remind yourself that as a beginner, you will be wrong sometimes, and that being wrong small is the tuition you pay for getting good later. You keep your core fund contributions steady, so one idea never dominates your month. In the third quarter, you examine your appetite for income today versus income later. If you're close to needing income, you decide whether a small bond ladder would make your cash flow calmer. If you're far from needing income, you stay heavy on equity funds and let dividends reinvest. Either way, you organize your financial life so that bills are paid by salary and cash reserves, not by selling investments in a panic. Dividends then become a pleasant addition rather than a necessity that forces bad timing. In the fourth quarter, you review your year and write a one-page policy you can follow next year without drama. It says what you own, why you own it, how much you contribute on payday, how distributions are handled, and when you will reconsider. It includes a sentence about how you'll behave during a market drop. You will keep contributing, you will not chase yield to replace price declines, and you will remember that the healthiest dividend payers tend to keep paying through the noise. You print the page or tape it in a notes app where you'll actually see it, then you go to bed. Policies beat moods. There are special cases worth understanding, even if you avoid them at first. Real estate investment REITs pay attractive distributions because the law requires them to pass through most of their taxable income. Their payout ratios look high because their accounting differs from other companies. They're often tax inefficient in some jurisdictions, which means they may fit better in certain account types. Master limited partnerships can pay handsomely, but come with complex tax documents and rules that make them a poor fit for beginners without guidance. Covered call funds generate income by selling options on the holdings they own. That income can be appealing, but often comes at the cost of upside in strong markets and with distributions that vary. None of these are forbidden, they are simply advanced tools you should only use when you understand what you're trading for the income you see. International dividend investing adds another layer. Companies outside your home country may pay on different schedules, in different amounts across the year, and subject to withholding taxes that you can sometimes recover or credit, depending on treaties and account types. Currency moves can amplify or dampen the cash you receive in your home currency. The benefit is diversification, the cost is complexity. As a beginner, an international dividend fund can give you exposure without paperwork surprises while you learn. Dividend reinvestment plans, often called DRIPs, are mechanical and underrated. By instructing your broker to reinvest dividends automatically, you convert each payment into more shares without thinking about it. Over years, that habit turns a modest income stream into a growing one. If you prefer control, you can instruct dividends to be paid in cash, and then deploy that cash consciously into whatever is most attractive at the time. Both approaches can work. The key is having a rule and following it, not reinventing the system each month based on whatever you saw online that week. Psychology is where dividend investing quietly helps. Many people find it easier to hold through volatility when they can point to checks that still arrive. That steadiness isn't just emotional comfort, it's better behavior. Selling in fear and buying back later is the most expensive habit in investing. Dividends can be the anchor that keeps you aboard long enough to let compounding do its work. The anchor is not indifference to price. It's a reminder that you're an owner, not a trader of tickets. At some point, you'll hear a debate about whether dividends are superior to buybacks. The grown-up answer is that both are tools, and the right tool depends on the business and the moment. Buybacks reduce the number of shares outstanding, increasing your claim on future earnings without sending you cash today. If a company buys back when they're undervalued and stops when they're expensive, buybacks can be efficient. If a company buys back regardless of price, buybacks can destroy value. Dividends are a promise in cash. Buybacks are a promise in arithmetic. As a beginner, you don't need to choose a religion. You need to prefer companies that allocate capital rationally and treat owners as partners. A word about sustainability through cycles. The best dividend payers build flexibility into their policies. They target a payout ratio that leaves room for reinvestment and for margin of safety. They hold cash or credit lines that let them bridge rough patches without cutting dividends. They prioritize the dividend alongside growth projects rather than instead of them. When conditions change, they communicate early and adjust deliberately. When you evaluate payers, look for the signs of that culture. Consistency is not an accident. It is a set of choices repeated over years. It's helpful to set expectations about income amounts. If your portfolio yields 3% and you own $100,000, your annual gross income is roughly $3,000 before taxes. If you contribute steadily and the companies you own grow their payouts, that number will climb. But the latter is built with paychecks and patience, not with heroic stock picking. Beginners often underestimate how long it takes to convert capital into income. That underestimation leads to chasing. You are better served by contributing more, letting your core compound, and letting dividend growth do what it does, quietly.
Risk management for dividend investors includes the boring things that protect any plan. Keep a cash buffer so you never need to sell a holding in a down market just to fund groceries. Diversify by sector and geography so one industry's bad year doesn't become your household's bad year. Keep position sizes sane. A beloved payer can still shock you. Review once or twice a year, not every day. If a company cuts its dividend, revisit the thesis with clear eyes. Sometimes a cut is a wise reset that makes the business healthier. Sometimes it signals deeper issues. Either way, your policy will tell you what to do next, so emotions don't write the check. Stories can make the mechanics feel real. Picture a teacher in her early 30s who starts with a broad equity fund and a dividend growth fund, contributing a fixed amount every payday. She turns on reinvestment and doesn't touch anything for a year. The next year, she adds a small position in a consumer staples company that has raised its dividend annually for decades. She keeps reading and resists the urge to add the high-yield energy stock her coworker won't stop texting about. 5 years later, her portfolio's cash income has doubled without her ever chasing yield, and her share count has climbed so that each raise the companies give themselves shows up as a raise in her mailbox. She didn't become a market savant.
Payday is a small holiday with a predictable hangover. The deposit lands, the dopamine spikes, and 1,000 tiny decisions rush the door at once. Some weeks you win, some weeks you wonder where it went. Accountants don't play that game. They don't rely on mood or motivation. They run a simple, boring, incredibly effective routine that turns each paycheck into calm. This is that routine, translated from ledger speak into normal life. So every time you get paid, you know exactly what to do, in what order, and why. No heroics, no complicated software, just a short sequence that survives Tuesdays when you're tired and builds a financial life that keeps its promises. Start with a frame shift. Payday is not a shopping signal, it's a distribution day. The purpose of the routine is to route money to its jobs before your impulses submit their own timesheets. That's what accountants do. They give every dollar a job on arrival. When you treat payday as distribution instead of permission, your month stops wobbling. The routine isn't restrictive, it's freeing, because once the routing is done, you can enjoy what's left without guilt. Freedom isn't do whatever, it's I did the important things automatically, so the rest is truly mine. The routine begins before the deposit clears. You build lanes so money can flow on rails instead of puddling in one account. One lane is your fixed bills you pay automatically. One lane is your safety buffer, the shock absorber that turns surprises into errands. One lane is your future, investments, retirement, and longer-term reserves. One lane is for variable spending, groceries, fuel, small joys, the stuff that makes a week feel like a week. If you're self-employed, add a taxes lane. If you share money, add a communication lane, a short check-in on the calendar, so the plan lives in both heads, not one. On payday, think like a traffic controller. Money lands in a staging account, an inbox for cash. Nothing stays there. Within minutes, rules move dollars out to the lanes. Accountants love rules because rules don't get tired. You'll love them because rules finish the job before your feelings start negotiating. Here's the sequence accountants run, written as a story instead of a checklist. The deposit posts. You scan the pay stub like a pilot running pre-flight. Is the gross pay what you expected? Do the taxes and benefits withholdings look right? Did your retirement contribution go through? If the numbers changed, new raise, new health premiums, bonus, note it. Save a PDF of the pay stub to a folder named for the year. Paper trails sound boring until they save you 3 calls and 2 headaches. The habit takes 60 seconds. It pays back for decades. Next, your Rails trigger. A same-day transfer moves money from the staging account to the bills account. The bills account exists for one reason: to pay fixed costs without asking you questions. Rent or mortgage, utilities, insurance, phone, internet, childcare, debt minimums, subscriptions you've actively chosen, these auto-pay from here. Because you fund the account on payday, you never ask, do I have enough for the 15th? You set the account to keep 1 month of bills as a cushion, so a processing delay or a forgotten annual bill does not eat your lunch.
If due dates are scattered, call providers and move them to a tighter window that matches payday. Accountants love clumping because it makes reconciliation trivial. You will love it because it stops surprise dings on random Tuesdays. While the bills account loads, a second transfer feeds your safety buffer. If you're just starting, this might be a small amount, enough to handle 2 annoyances: a tire, a cracked screen. Over time, you grow it to a few months of essentials. Label the account with a name that calms you. Sleep fund beats emergency fund. Names matter because money is psychology before it's math. Accountants name accounts precisely so they behave. You can do the same. A labeled buffer is promised money, and promised money likes to stay put. Now, the most important lane, your future. If you have an employer plan that matches contributions, make sure the contribution percentage in payroll is high enough to collect the full match. That's not free money, it's part of your compensation. If you don't take it, you're leaving pay on the table. After payroll contributions, many accountants route an extra percentage on payday into long-term investments in a separate account, so growth doesn't depend on HR alone. The actual instruments can be blissfully simple. A broad, low-cost index fund core, maybe a small ballast if that helps you sleep, dividends reinvested automatically, and a rule that you rebalance on your birthday and half-birthday instead of when the news yells. Your payday job isn't to tinker, it's to feed the machine. Compounding works for the boring and the busy. With the future fed, turn to debt beyond the minimums if you carry any. The accountant's trick is sequencing. Automate every minimum from the bills account so you're never late. Then point an extra payment at your current target the same day you get paid. Whether you snowball, smallest balance first, or avalanche, highest rate first, is a behavioral choice. Pick the one you'll finish. What matters is the ritual. On payday, the target gets punched every time, no story required. As each balance hits 0, celebrate for 60 seconds, then redirect that payment to the next target. The celebration matters more than the screenshot. People repeat what they reward. Only now do we top up the weekly spending card. This is your variable life. Groceries, fuel, coffees, kid snacks, the small things that make days feel human. The trick is containment. You load a set amount each payday onto a card or account that resets weekly, not monthly. Weekly cycles are easier on brains. Months are too long and too fuzzy. If you end a week with extra, skim it into the safety fund, or let it roll as a little cushion. If you come short, the card tells the truth before your account does. Truth is cheap. Denial is expensive. Everything above just happens if you set the rails, but accountants add one pass that makes you bulletproof: sinking funds. These are many accounts inside the bills lane for predictable but not monthly costs: car maintenance, property tax, school fees, travel, gifts, annual subscriptions. You feed them every payday. When the bill arrives, the money is already labeled and waiting. Suddenly, December doesn't feel like a crisis, and the car doesn't turn into an excuse to swipe and hope. Sinking funds are how accountants time-shift stress into small, boring deposits. That's how you make life cheaper without being a scold. What about taxes? If you're a W-2 employee and your withholding is accurate, payroll handles most of it. Your payday job is to confirm contributions and avoid surprises. If you're freelance or have side income, add a taxes lane that skims a set percentage off the top of all non-payroll income on arrival into a separate, untouchable savings account labeled quarterlies, hands off. On payday, reconcile the balance. Are you on track for the next estimated payment date? Transfer now, not later. Accountants don't argue with tax calendars, they keep them. You may be thinking, that's a lot of moving parts. It's fewer than it sounds because almost all of it is automated after a single setup. The live work each payday is short and simple. Glance at paystub, watch transfers fire, confirm the bills cushion, feed the buffer, invest, punch the debt target, top the weekly card, and skim sinking funds. 10 to 15 minutes tops. The piece lasts 2 weeks or a month. The return on those minutes is a life where money whispers instead of shouts. A good routine includes guardrails for weird weeks. If the deposit is smaller than expected, the order of operations saves you. The bills get funded first, then the buffer, then the future, then the weekly card, then extra debt. In a tight week, you can reduce the weekly top-up and temporarily slow sinking funds. You don't raid the buffer unless a real emergency shows up. You degrade gracefully instead of falling apart. That's what systems are for. Raises and windfalls get a script too, because lifestyle creep loves ambiguity. When a raise lands, you capture a fixed slice into the plan before your lifestyle meets the bigger number. Half into retirement or investments, a quarter into bolstering the buffer or sinking funds you underfed, a quarter into your weekly card for an actual improvement you'll feel. You can set your own percentages. The rule is the point. Money that's routed before you feel rich will make you rich. Money that's celebrated first will evaporate. Bonuses and lumpy income follow a separate ritual. Save half, enjoy half. The save half portion hits your highest priority automatically. Wipe a debt, jump a month ahead on bills, or push your investments. The enjoy half portion goes to something that upgrades your life for months, not minutes. A class you'll love, a tool that saves time, a trip you'll remember, support that buys back hours. Accountants know morale matters. A plan that never contains joy will be vetoed by your nervous system. Build joy in on purpose, and it won't have to sneak in through side doors.